noticed the attic hatch because the hallway ceiling looked bruised, like someone had pressed up from the other side. I only needed to swap the air filter and grab a box of winter clothes. My landlord had said, "The attic is empty," like it was a promise. The house was a low, older bungalow, all tight corners and soft floorboards. I set up a step stool and clicked on my headlamp. When I nudged the hatch, warm air exhaled down onto my face. I froze, waiting for a vent to kick on, but the air kept coming in slow pulses. The hatch shifted a millimeter, then settled, like something above it adjusted its weight. A faint scrape moved along the joists directly over my head. I told myself it was raccoons until I heard a sound that wasn't claws. It was skin on wood, a drag that paused, then continued, as if someone was crawling carefully. Dust sifted from the seam and landed on my shoulders like grit from a shaken rug. I tried to back away, and the stool leg caught on the runner. My heel slid, and the stool clapped against the wall, loud in the quiet house. Above me, the attic answered with a thud that made the hatch bow down an inch. I reached up with both hands, meaning to push it closed, and it lifted on its own. A face appeared in the rectangle of dark, pale, shiny, and too close, with eyes that reflected my headlamp like wet coins. It smiled without changing anything else. I stumbled backward and the stool skittered, leaving me exposed under the open hatch. Something dropped a hand down first, fingers long and trembling. Then the shoulder followed like it was unfolding. It moved faster than it should have, and I ran as it hit the hallway with a soft, bare-footed slap. I sprinted for the front door, fumbling the lock with shaking hands as footsteps slapped behind me in uneven bursts. The air turned cold at my neck, and a breath touched my ear like someone testing the distance. I burst outside and slammed the door so hard the frame shuddered. On the porch, I could still hear it inside, moving in short, patient scrapes above the ceiling. I didn't go back in. I drove to a friend's place with my headlamp still on, burning a circle into the windshield. At midnight, my phone lit with a notification from my door camera. The attic hatch, filmed from below, was open wide, like a mouth. The basement smelled wrong the moment I stepped onto the last stair, like damp paper and pennies. I was only down there because the water meter was acting up, according to my neighbor. I brought a camping lantern and told myself I'd be back upstairs in 2 minutes. The basement was unfinished and cramped, with insulation dangling like dirty cotton. The concrete wall behind the shelves looked newer than the rest, a clean rectangle where old paint stopped. When my lantern beam crossed it, a seam appeared, straight, deliberate. Then a quiet knock answered from the other side. I held my breath and waited for another knock, thinking pipes, thinking settling. Instead, the seam flexed slightly, as if something leaned into it and then eased away. A thin line of dust shook loose and fell in a neat trail, like someone had tapped it from within. I backed up until the stair rail pressed into my spine. The lantern threw my shadow huge across the floor, and it looked like someone else standing with me. From inside the wall, I heard a slow drag and then a whisper that wasn't words. Just breath-shaping sound. I turned for the stairs and stopped dead. The door at the top, the one that always stuck, was shut tight, and the knob sat perfectly still like it had never been touched. Behind me, the seam in the wall clicked once, like a latch deciding. The rectangle split open without a creak, swinging inward on hidden hinges. A man stood in the gap, dusty and barefoot, with a dark line of dried grime around his mouth, like he'd been chewing earth. His eyes fixed on me, as if he'd been waiting for the lantern to find him. He stepped out, and the air around him carried that metallic, wet smell in a wave. I lifted the lantern between us, and his head tilted, listening to my breathing like it was a map. Then he moved, fast and quiet, straight toward me. I darted sideways, nearly dropping the lantern, and ran along the shelves toward the small window well. His fingers grazed the back of my shirt, snagging fabric for a half second before I tore free. I jammed my forearms into the window frame, shoved, and scrambled up into the yard, skin scraping on concrete. I rolled onto the grass and looked back through the window well. He was there, framed in the dark, one hand pressed to the glass, like he was testing its strength, his face calm and close. When I finally got upstairs and fled the house, the basement door was wide open and muddy footprints led from the stairs to the spot where the wall door had been, now sealed again, smooth as if it had never existed. I heard the tapping through my bathroom vent at 2:17 a.m., precise as a metronome. I live alone on the 10th floor, and the building always creaks, but this was different. I stood on the toilet lid and put my ear near the grill, and someone tapped back like they knew I was listening. In the morning, the property manager insisted it was normal expansion, then mentioned a maintenance corridor that linked utility runs. I couldn't shake the feeling that the tapping had been intentional, like a code. That night, I unscrewed the vent cover with a coin and saw a narrow metal throat disappearing into darkness. I told myself I'd only look, not crawl, not do anything stupid. I held my phone low so the screen glow wouldn't blind me, and I angled it into the opening. On the far metal, smeared fingerprints flashed in the light, fresh, wet-looking, then slid away as if a hand had just withdrawn. My skin prickled, and I replaced the cover with shaking fingers. The tapping started again, closer now, and the vent grill trembled faintly. From somewhere inside the run, a soft shuffle traveled toward me, metal whispering against fabric. I backed out of the bathroom, and the hallway light flickered once, then steadied. My front door chain was latched, but the deadbolt turned a fraction with a quiet, thoughtful click. The tapping moved from the vent to the wall itself, like knuckles finding the studs. I pressed my eye to the peephole, and a face filled it instantly, far too close to be on the other side of the hallway. It wasn't distorted like a normal view. It was flat and clear, as if the person's eye was pressed directly to mine. The lips moved silently, and a fingertip traced a circle around the peephole from the outside. I yanked back, heart bucking, and the chain snapped tight as the door shoved inward. The frame groaned, and something scraped along the latch like it was trying to hook it. I ran for the balcony, and behind me the bathroom vent cover clattered to the tile like it had been kicked out. Cold air hit my face as I slid the balcony door open and stepped out barefoot onto the concrete. Inside, I heard fast footsteps, too light for shoes, cross the living room toward the balcony glass. A shadow stopped on the other side, and a palm pressed to the pane, leaving a full handprint that glistened in the city light. I didn't wait. I pounded on my neighbor's door until they opened. Then I bolted into their apartment and called building security. Later, a technician swore the maintenance corridor was locked and doesn't connect like that, but he went pale when he saw the smeared prints inside my vent. When I slept at a hotel, the last thing I saw before turning off the lamp was a new notification on my phone, a photo from my own unit's hallway camera taken from inside the vent run, aimed straight at my door.